8th episode opens with Maddie, Simon, Janet, and the other teen ghosts waiting for Mr. Martin's arrival at the school. Janet assures the others that he will come back because he wants her. Their plan is to force him to swap bodies back with Mr. Anderson and hold him accountable for his actions. They also want answers on why he did everything he did. Once Mr. Martin arrives, they lure him into the school's auditorium, setting a trap by making him believe he's speaking to Janet. As he reaches out to grab what he thinks is her, his hand passes through her, revealing he's actually reaching for Maddie. At that moment, Simon emerges from behind the stage curtains, and a confrontation ensues. As Mr. Martin gains the upper hand, Janet unexpectedly appears and tases him. Mr. Anderson arrives at this moment as well. With Mr. Martin now restrained, Mr. Anderson works to make him feel guilty for his wrongdoings, and it starts to have an effect. Mr. Martin begins to unravel under the pressure, growing emotionally distressed. This was part of their strategy. In his weakened state, they're able to force him to switch bodies back with Mr. Anderson. It's similar to how Janet took control of Maddie's body. Mr. Anderson leaves the school and heads to the police station, where he finds Sheriff Baxter and Sandra in conversation. He informs them that he has crucial information about Maddie and urges them to come with him immediately. Meanwhile, Maddie and the others bring Mr. Martin to the entrance of the fallout shelter for questioning. Mr. Martin begins by apologizing and then asserts that his intentions were always good and that he had everyone's best interests at heart. He reveals that there is more to Split River High than they currently understand. He then turns to Janet and tells her he's ready to explain everything, but only if she returns to her body first. Janet agrees to go along with it, and she and Maddie begin preparing to switch bodies. After heartfelt conversations and emotional goodbyes, Janet exits Maddie's body and tells Simon to catch her. Now, all Maddie has to do is enter her own body again, and she'll be back in the living world. But she hesitates. In that moment of doubt, Nicole, Claire, and Xavier burst through the door to reveal something crucial about Mr. Martin. In the previous episode, Janet admitted to being responsible for the chemistry lab fire, but this episode reveals that Mr. Martin was actually behind it. We also hear the true account of the fire directly from Mr. Martin. He reveals that he never intended for Janet's death to happen. It was purely an accident. Angry at being fired by the school district, he had initially planned to burn down the school, but backed out at the last moment. However, he had already released gas into the lab, and, unbeknownst to him, Janet had been testing flint torches. When she entered the room and lit a flame, it ignited the gas, causing a fire to break out. After Nicole, Claire, and Xavier reveal to Maddie and the others that Mr. Martin was responsible for the chemistry lab fire, Mr. Martin quickly grabs Janet and drags her into the fallout shelter before slamming the door. Once inside the scar, Janet soon realizes that they're not just in her scar. Somehow, their two scars have merged. Mr. Martin tells Janet that if she says she forgives him out loud, they'll be able to leave. But Janet is confused, unsure of what she's supposed to be forgiving him for. She demands to know the truth about the fire. Meanwhile, the teen ghosts try to figure out a way to get inside the fallout shelter. Simon opens the door for them, but they find the scar closed. They then decide to go through all their scars, which will eventually lead them to Mr. Martin and Janet's scars. Outside the fallout shelter, Simon warns Maddie that she needs to return to her body now, or she'll die. However, Maddie doesn't want to leave her spirit friends behind, since they're in trouble. As mentioned in the previous episode, Janet revealed that she and Mr. Martin believed that if all the spirits entered their scars at the same time, it would generate a tremendous amount of energy that would overpower the electromagnetic barrier surrounding the school and allow them to break free. At that moment, Maddie realizes it's a trap, and she must get to her spirit friends as soon as possible. She looks over at her unconscious body on the floor and sees her necklace glowing red. Her necklace is her key to her scar. She takes the necklace and tells Simon to keep her alive before entering her scar. Once Maddie enters her scar, she finds her feet glued to the floor as the fallout shelter fills with water. Strange versions of her mom and dad also appear in her scar. As she swims her way back to the surface, Wally stretches out his hand in the water and pulls her up. The other teen ghosts have made it to Maddie's scar as well. After rescuing Maddie, they find the door into Mr. Martin and Janet's scars. Mr. Martin paces back and forth before abruptly stopping and staring into the distance. Maddie follows his gaze and spots a fake version of Janet. At that moment, she realizes the truth. Mr. Martin keeps returning to the school because he feels guilty for causing Janet's death. She's haunting him, and he won't find peace until she crosses over. After everyone learns the truth about the fire, an emotional Janet then expresses her disappointment in not being able to make anything out of her life. Suddenly, a glowing exit door appears in Janet's scar. Mr. Martin immediately starts running to it, hoping to escape, but Janet knocks him down before he can. She vents her anger at him, then takes his watch, his key. Maddie urges her to cross over now, but Janet refuses, explaining that she's not ready because she still has unfinished business. Janet and the others then leave the scars, trapping Mr. Martin inside his own. After emerging from the scars, Maddie scans her surroundings, but quickly realizes that Simon, her other living friends, and even her physical body are nowhere in sight. Unbeknownst to her, they've moved her body outside as paramedics arrive. Simon begs for the paramedics not to take Maddie's body past a certain point, because he knows that if they do, her body won't be able to go with them. However, they don't listen to him. Simon then runs back into the school to find Maddie. But when he returns to the fallout shelter, he can't find Maddie anywhere. All he sees is a glowing red light coming from the room. Meanwhile, Maddie and the teen ghosts rush outside just in time to see her body being loaded into the ambulance. With one final round of emotional goodbyes, Maddie sprints toward the ambulance and leaps back into her body. Later, she wakes up in a hospital room, surrounded by her mother, Nicole, Claire, and Xavier. The first thing she asks is where Simon is. They explain that he went back to find her, but assure her that he'll return soon.